Hi, my name is Harrison Taylor, and this is my EDL 850 Module 12 on tort liability. Okay, my definition for tort liability has to do with civil wrongdoings, has to do with an injury or something happened from one individual to another based off the conduct of the individual to the other. It's based off legal premise that individuals are, obviously responsible for their own conduct and the consequences that has on others. So in the educational realm, it's usually the effect that teachers or administrators or school staff have on individual students or people in the school. So the first case that I found was the Frame versus Como. I can't pronounce that very well. But in this case, there was a teacher that was substituting for another teacher. He asked for the class to be quiet, had to ask the whole class to come out, talk to him to be quiet, came back in. This student was talking during a test, and the teacher was trying to remove the student. The student wasn't moving. Finally, the teacher comes over to the student's desk. The student stands up, and the teacher, seems to get frustrated, grabs the student, and pulls him out of class. And then the court did side with the school and the teacher because they found that it was necessary for him to take care of this at school for learning environment and discipline. This happened at my school. The teacher would be spoken with, and this case happened years ago. I think that the courts would maybe make a different decision, but this is just not how we handle experiences with students. Call the administrator down, have them take care of it, and then so we probably have to address that specifically with the teacher for sure, and also talk with the student for their behavior in class. To be proactive, as a school, we would talk about classroom management. And then also how to de-escalate arguments. You don't want to get in power struggles like this with students. I think everyone has been in a power struggle with another person at one point, and it just doesn't usually work out with students. So, we really want to defuse these situations as much as possible. And then just understanding that, we want to avoid it all, pretty much under any circumstances from laying our hands on students as teachers or staff, unless you're trained to do so. Then obviously there's some extraordinary circumstances as well. And the second case, was pretty sad, but it was this student and against the school district and its parents. So in this case, the PE class was working on a golf unit. This student missed the first day of class that they started the golf unit, and this was the second day. He didn't have an experience with golf. And so when it was his turn to come up, he was trying to learn. He was kind of in the wrong spot. Student hit him in their backswing, and this student unfortunately died. So, obviously this is a really bad instance. The teachers, there was two teachers, but they weren't watching this individual student. They needed more structure at the beginning levels, and they probably needed to have some reteaching with him of the, beginning skills to make sure that the class was safe. Also, they didn't see it happen. So obviously this is bad, a terrible occurrence. We'd have to look at procedures for the school, and especially for these PE classes, and change them to make sure that it doesn't happen in the future. To keep this from happening, one thing you could do ahead of time is observe teachers, make sure that everything is happening like it should. There's good supervision, and that proper procedures and just understanding of how to follow this. And then also making sure, teachers should, know that keeping students safe is a high priority, making sure that they're being watched, especially if it's an activity that could be more dangerous. There needs to be an increase in supervision there. The third case was Johnson versus School District of Millard. In this one, there was a music teacher. She was teaching the song London Bridges, and then the students were swinging each other. That's what she was teaching. She did demonstrate briefly, but then the first student to do it was flung really hard by a couple students, hit a bookshelf, and required a bunch of stitches. Sounds like it did some serious damage to the student's face, and the teacher was found in neglect because there wasn't sufficient teaching of the skill, not sufficient supervision, and just turn them loose so fast. So, they found it was negligent. So if this happened at my school, obviously we'd have to deal with all the things that they dealt with in the court case. But we definitely make sure we hold this teacher accountable, and it's not acceptable to play these games that get out of hand. Obviously, intent to hurt someone definitely wasn't there, but needs to be addressed. And teaching the scaffolding of lessons and building the skills before jumping to more difficult things, or things that get out of hand like this. And then we would proactively talk about the games that kind of make sense for the grade level, and which ones have a lot of education, and which ones we can include, which ones are maybe too much. That would be really important. And then also, I don't think this teacher anticipated the game would get out of control. But as a teacher, you kind of have to look forward and see the possible steps of any choice you make, and anticipate what could happen to make sure that all students are safe. And then the fourth case that I looked at was Evans versus Oaks Mission Public School. This is an interesting case. This student played football and basketball. I think it was a sophomore year. Had 2 different shoulder injuries that year, and the parents kind of wanted him to take off sports for a year, and had some doctor's notes and things. And then that next year he wasn't playing any sports, but he got added to a PE class the football coach was teaching, and it was a football skills PE class where they lifted weights and did football type activities. This student did some wrestling or something and dislocated his shoulder. The parent thought that this was negligent because the school is just ignoring her requests. And then the courts ultimately ruled in favor of the school, because schools and coaches are protected in some ways, because to allow for coaching in sports and things like that. And then I think also there was a factor with the parent did know that the student was getting back into PE class, so that was a factor as well. So I think at my school, I would want to talk to the counseling department, make sure we kind of avoid these types of things if we can, as far as scheduling. And then making sure that we respect parents' wishes on scheduling for sure as much as we can at the school. And then also, I think the school, they didn't lose the lawsuit, obviously, and they were following some measures. They were communicating some way with the parents and trying to follow the best steps. But just over communicating is better than under communicating with parents, especially in a case like this. And then just as far as teacher ethics, just keeping the parent and what they want in mind is just helpful, and that can help avoid these types of situations. And the fourth case was Nicholas versus USD number 400, which I believe was McPherson, Kansas. So in this one case, there was a football coach. They're having a night practice. After the night practice, the players, he asked them to run up to the locker room to shower and go home. And so when this happened, one of the players was running through a little stream that's normally there and slipped, and then when he got back in the shower, was having back pain, and so they decided to sue the school because they felt that the coach shouldn't let them be running at night after practices or whatever. And then ultimately the courts did side in favor of the district because of the protections for coaches and the district. I could have seen it maybe going either way in this case. So obviously the district was put at some liability here. So if this happened at my school, I'd want to talk with the football coach, make sure they understand possible liability of these decisions, and making sure that they're taking care of everything on their end, especially today. Football is a hot topic, and you've got to make sure you're covered, and make sure that the football coach is supervising, make sure they're part of the whole practice until it's over. And then it could have been avoided by maybe requiring practices during the day. Hopefully night practice is not a huge, thing in this district all the time. You could see every, once a season or something to kick off. But, day practice seemed to be a better fit for the most part. Even morning would be better than night practices, I think. And then also making sure that, students aren't running when there's no lighting, and just, those types of things. And then having the coaches think through these decisions that they're making to help protect the district can be, a really big step. Understanding they're representative of the district, and, avoiding this type of thing. These court cases are really important to follow and keep track of, and understanding the liability that you have as an educator and a teacher and an administrator, and being able to anticipate things that may go wrong and proactively have things in place to have the best school environment possible.